Raymond is the ultimate rock roll bad guy. Think of Mick Jagger if Mick Jagger was a guru. That's the guy, or maybe Keith Richards, maybe more so. Raymond and I have been friends since 2018, 19, right around there. So it's only been 6 years, 5.5 years. But since day one, we've talked to each other and we've been friends like it's decades, lifelong long. It's like we went to high school together or something. It's interesting when you find an old friend. In my case, anybody finds me, I'm an old friend. But I mean, the older sense, multiple lives. When you find people from previous, you know it when you find it because there's no small talk anymore. It's just we talk serious stuff. We get right down into it. And Raymond had a life that totally changed. You don't have to listen to any of this. Your life totally changed when you had multi 10, 11, I don't know how many heart attacks you had, revived back to life. It was a miracle that you were alive. But you had a lifestyle that was changed and altered. Not necessarily of your own wishes, but almost like you had no choice. Like you got changed through the process of these evolutionary near-death experiences. Like a part of your soul was drawn to another dimension, educated, downloaded maybe, right? Uploaded, downloaded, whatever. You were altered. And so anyway, Raymond is a medical intuitive and he's licensed so in England. He gets to go to the hospitals and tell people what the doctors can't find. And he also does animals. I call him an animal whisperer, but I don't know if he has that as a title. But animals, he listens to animals. And I just sent you to help one of the royal family with a camel. That sounds like a crazy story. Yes. A few months ago, right? Raymond, introduce yourself. I've not done you full justice.
Oh, thank you. Real pleasure to meet everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and in all aspects, really. Yeah, I very much have had I think I've led in the life that I've had. I don't know how many times of different things that I've done. It's lovely to be back. It's lovely to hear what you're saying about love, Bill. I was somebody who never used to prescribe to that style of life. I always knew that my mother was my eye opener. She was the lady who opened my eyes to things, but I didn't pay attention. I was always forewarned by my mother, you better change, otherwise something bad will happen to you. And I didn't believe her. I don't know if you know any of my history, but I come from a family of seers. I picked up the skills from my grandmother on my mother's side. Just like Bill would see, particularly when I was young, would see such bright lights, beings, tall beings. My father was in the army and we used to go off around the world. And we were based in Germany one time, and my mother knew that I had it in me, I suppose. You're always hanging around the drains at the back of the house, Raymond. You're always doing that. You've got to stop doing that. But what I used to see was the tall beings and the light, which I would have assumed at the time when I was a child looking up, was so bright I couldn't understand how the light wasn't blinding me. And the communication was, again, Bill, you kind of picked up on it. It wasn't the spoken word. It was more the essence. It was almost like hearing the breath of a person. It just permeated me, and I hid everything. I thought everybody could do what I was doing, and I believe that everybody still can. I've just been fortunate, stroke unfortunate, to lead the lifestyle that I've had, which allows me to focus in on being a better man, really. So always, it was always different, always different. I was already, before my cardiac arrests, I've had 10 cardiac arrests and 6 heart attacks. No, I have to tell a lie. There was one other at St Thomas's Hospital in the MRI machine. And again, I was told that was going to happen to me. And I remember being in the MRI machine thinking I've gotten away with what the voice had told me, that I wouldn't be dying in this machine. And they'd already expressed to me that what we're going to give you, inject into you, in very rare circumstances, may cause a cardiac arrest. And I remember looking at the staff. They put me in charge of the MRI machine. They looked at my heart, and it was at that point when they said, we're now going to inject you with whatever this fluid was. And as soon as it went into me, I distinctly remember suffocating inside the machine, thrashing around in the machine, couldn't get out of the machine, and then blacked out. They managed to get me out of the machine. They injected me with whatever this antidote was. It brought me around. So I'd always had this second sight, struggled with it an awful lot. Still struggle to this very day about the experience. Again, I can connect with you, Bill, on what I feel. My places where I connect, there's a lovely old church in my town, which was built in the 10th century. And there's a spot in that church where I often sit in the back, and I just sit there and just wait until it comes up from the feet. It just erupts through the feet and then just exits through the top of my head. It's just my way of touching base. I found the experience of dying that night multiple times very, very troubling. I was already told that I was going to die. I was told on a Wednesday, and then on a Sunday I was gone. Died in the back of the ambulance, and then multiple events in the ER room. But something happened to the people. It wasn't so much about me now. It was about how my events affected others, which I found to really traumatized some people who were there that night. I remember most of the events of my death that night. I remember actually saying to myself, "You're experiencing death." One of the cardiac sisters asked for my mother's contact details. I remember looking up at her and saying, "Am I as bad as that?" She says, "Yeah, you are. We don't really think you're going to make it out of this." And then it was such a roller coaster ride. But that was just a small part of it. It's what did it do to me after? How did I interact with the rest of the doctors? I became an ambassador for down at Valley Hospital, was giving talks for them, doing other talks about the psychological effects. I couldn't find somebody to help me who I could talk to about not so much the spiritual side, which is profound these days, but it was the practical side. How do you come back from this? How do you try to process this? And I wanted to get back. I didn't understand the grief process of losing the old Raymond and the new Raymond coming in. Didn't understand that at all. Before my death, I was already helping animals. The animals would talk to me. And I would express what would be wrong with the animals. So everything was bubbling. Everything was bubbling before it was the major event. But after the major event, that's when everything really kind of just sort of took off from the healing side of things. I remember being at the cardiac rehabilitation center, and one of the cardiac sisters said to me, what are you going to do now that you can't be an engineer anymore? That no one had been brave enough to tell me that. it was, that's what I panicked. I had by then, with the Harry Edwards Healing Trust, I'd already become a registered healer before my death, and I'd even done peculiar things, like I'd taken out. This is how much I was being told, but I wasn't listening. Before my death, something told me, the voice with a capital V. I get that. I always give credit to that. I get that description from Peter Panagall, the voice with a capital V that talks to me. And it told me to take out 2 life insurance policies, and I'd never taken any out in my life. And then within 6 months, boom, I was struck down. But the monies from that was very helpful. So I understood why I was being told things. It allowed me to recover at a pace that I could recover. So when the cardiac sister said to me, what are you going to do now that you can't work? I explained to her that I come from a family of seers. I see illnesses on people. I help with pain relief. She said, she asked me outright, do you see cancers? And as it happened, yeah, I'd seen cancers on people before and on animals. And I said, yes, I do. And in actual fact, if I can't work at my previous occupation, I'll rent a room here and I'll just work on your patients. I'm a registered healer. I'm recognised by the National Health Service to work in hospitals. And she said, what do you mean you see cancers? So I explained it to her, and she hit me with one of the most poignant questions that I've ever had. It was life-changing. Do I have cancer? She said. And I'd only met her for 2 or 3 days. And I know what I'm seeing, because I enter an altered state where I can still talk to you all, but I know that I'm working. I know something is guiding me, whatever that is. I try not to question what it is. I just soak up whatever it is. I'd like to use words, Bill's description again. It just feels like solid, full-on love. Like a love that is so powerful, to touch it would probably burn my fingers. It was just an incredible experience. I told her to turn around. She turned around. I told her where her cancer was. I told her the size of it. And she turned around and looked at me again, and she corrected me because I told her the size. So it's not 3 millimeters, Ray. It's 3.5 millimeters. And where your finger was on the back of my shoulder blade, I had a tumor on the back wall of my lung, and it's just been removed, and they've removed my breast. Again, I've got authorization to tell this story. And do you want to work on the chemo unit? And yeah, I just said yes. Said, well, there'll be an interview. Come onto the Pine Therapy unit, and we'll interview you. All the staff will be there. We want to make sure that you fit in with us. So I did. I went for the interview. The room was full. They said we can't continue for the interview until we get another lady comes in. She's one of the head nurses here. She came in and she apologized for being late. She says she was at the fertility unit, which is in the same hospital. She said, I've got a question for you. Will I have a baby? I said, yes, you will. I said, but you've got something wrong with your left ovary. Again, I said, is it all right to mention this? She said, these are all my friends. And the room went quiet. And she said, for you and for the rest of us here, she said, I've just come back from the fertility unit, and they told me that there is something wrong with my left ovary. She said, so we want you to work here. And so I did. And it was 18 months on this chemo unit of finding out, getting to know cancer on a personal level, getting to know it as a living thing, which it is, and it allowed me to really practice my skills. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I'd learned from working on the chemo unit. But it was also the ability to help with pain. And at this time, Raymond was really struggling on a psychological level. The British Medical Institute invited myself and 39 others to a meeting just off Park Lane to tell us about, more of you are surviving, but you're coming back with more psychological issues. So this is why we want you here, so we can question you. And I'd soon found then that, yeah, we are really struggling to help those of us who have seen things like this, who are walking around. So I thought, oh, well, I need to find a counsellor, and I couldn't find one. I couldn't find one anywhere with my experience of what I had experienced. Most of who I talked to were in awe of the story, which is not what I wanted. I wanted help. I wanted to know how I could cope with this. Many of us survivors commit suicide because of the profound experience. It's easier for us to go back to what we had seen. I love the other side. I adore it. So I trained. I trained. I took the next 4 years out. Trained to be a counsellor who deals with specific, verified near-death experiences. You know, did your heart stop? Yes. Well, then you can quite easily be a client for me. I don't deal so much in I nearly stepped in front of the bus. I could have died. Were you verified? Did your heart stop? Now I can connect with you because that's what's happened to me. I can't connect so much with on a level of I almost died. I go for the full fat one because that's kind of where I'm needed. But I have struggled. The things I've seen, just like Bill, I've met whatever you'd like to call it. I'd often work on the other side. I wasn't a good man in my early years. I'll openly admit that. I'm so happy that I'm back here to be given a second chance and just to help others. It's a beautiful lifestyle now. It's a lovely lifestyle. I love helping people. I met Bill at IANS, and I remember talking to I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a doctor. And Bill and I have spoken about this before. I've spoken to it on another one of his interviews. And but I remember seeing this man in a black hat, dressed in black, Bill, out of the corner of my eye. And he walked across the hotel lobby. And he had something sitting on him. And it was plugged into Bill. It was plugged into his face, and it was plugged into his forearms. And I remember looking at him. I broke away from talking to this doctor, and I watched him. I said, "There's a guy who's got cancer," and I hadn't really known Bill that well. I hadn't seen where it was. Anyway, as time went by, Bill will back me up. That's what I'd seen, and that was what I've been doing really ever since. To be honest with you. So now I counsel those who have strong NDE experiences, but I've also come from another viewpoint, which is something new to me, is looking at the art of vulnerability, how you could be more vulnerable to make yourself more forward rather than hiding within yourself. I find the art of vulnerability now extremely liberating. Rather than trying to hide who I am, I can now measure the impact of being so open. You know, I've been called quite a few things in my time: abominations, Satan, you know, you name it. And so it would have been easier to hide, but I'd learned to be vulnerable, to be open, but still to be protected. So that's kind of what I teach. I teach the art of seeing now. How do I see things on people? What do I believe? How do I believe that? Affirmations of doing it, witness statements. I've collected it all because I thought I was going to lose my mind. I thought, you know, walking around with this second sight of seeing was quite incredible. But so now, if I work on people now, you know, the art of listening was something which I couldn't grasp that either, because I couldn't believe how unbelievable it was to be looking at somebody and pointing out what ails them. Particularly from a cancer viewpoint. I've seen things 4 years down the line before an MRI scan will pick it up. I remember being in your state, Bill, in California, looking at some horses up in the Galita Mountains, and telling the people who look after them, this is what's wrong with your horses. So how do you do this? At the time, I didn't understand. I couldn't get a grip on it. So life has slowed down enough now to allow me to have a private practice, and you know, if people don't have money to well, then I'll work on you for nothing. But so I give as much as I possibly can, because it's what you get back. It's that love, which again I didn't understand where people were coming from when they said love is everything. I couldn't get my head around it, but now it's something which brings me immense peace, particularly when I work on be it animals or people. It's people around the world just contact me for help, and I give as much as I possibly can. Here we are with all of you lovely people. I think it's what I like about my story is that you can come back and you can be completely different. You don't have to be the person you were before, and that was probably the biggest. What humbles me the most, to be honest with you, is I'm now the exact opposite of who I used to be. And it's taken me about 14 years now. I've lived with this. I still live with severe heart issues. I don't know some mornings whether or not I'm gonna make it through the day. But I'll tell you one thing: it really sharpens and focuses your attention. I love what you mentioned about the downloads, Bill. I've had an awful lot of downloads. So where do you go? Where do you go to get this kind of information? I was lucky that I bumped into you. I bumped into others, Lilia, Ians. It was just profound, just profound. And again, to be here in the capacity of what I do now, I love it. I just love it. Some of the things I've seen are quite incredible, really. I've visited my mother's sister. She was very ill. My mum wanted to talk to her, wanted me to find her. She asked me to go and visit her 3 times. And I had to, I would call it journeying. This was before my cardiac arrest, before the sequence. Will you go and find my sister on the other side? I can't talk to her, she said, but I know she's ill. I want you to tell me what's wrong with her. So I would go on the other side as at the drop of a hat. And I found her, beautiful lady, visited a dark place she was in, lying on a white framed bed. And I came back, told my mother that I'd seen her. I was asked to go back a further 2 times. But the second time that I went back, I was met by somebody else. Tall guy, white eyes, black suit, and he stood in front of me. Sorry, he stood to my left, and he just appeared. And so I could see the old lady on the cast iron bed, and the guy's now to my left. And I've looked at him, and he said to me, "You're not supposed to be here." And so I left. I came back, and my mother was my teacher. And I explained to her what I'd seen. My mother asked me to go one more time, and it was my last time I was going to go. And I went. I found the old lady again, but the man appeared in front of me, and he said to me, "You shouldn't be here." And when he did that, he hit me on my chest, and that was when the heart trouble started. And I got back and I said to my mum, "I won't go back again." I said, the guy was there again. And all she said was, "Oh." Now, don't blame my mother for sending me there. She ended up passing through vascular dementia. So she was already losing it. And so she now wasn't so much my teacher anymore. And she said to me, I don't need to teach you anymore. You know more than I know now. So we had a bit of a prickly time on the run up to her death. An amazing time to be with her. Amazing time to connect with her. In the meantime, I was doing just incredible work. I worked on a guy who had a heart attack, went into a coma, was in a coma for 14 weeks, and I was asked by their family to can I visit? Can I visit him? We can't talk to him. We go and see him every day, but he doesn't talk back to us. When he woke up, the first thing he said was, "Who's Raymond O'Brien?" This guy was based in Eastern Europe. So it was all of this, you know, and it's breaking it apart. How can I use that for the better of? And that's kind of where I am with what I do. The skills keep coming, the chances to do good keep coming. I still hear animals, still work with animals, still diagnose with animals. I diagnose with people. I have the ability to sit next to people and the pain stops. I got to a point with what I was doing that I became a little bit aggrieved, really, that I couldn't heal somebody completely. It was a real hang up for me. And then one year I watched one of the Christmas shows where they'd send a TV crew around to the children's hospitals on Christmas Day. And they got to this little 9-year-old girl who was suffering from terminal cancer. And they asked her, what would you like for Christmas? And she said, I would just like 5 minutes for the pain to stop. And that was what I was able to do, was to me wasn't enough. But when I heard this child say just 5 minutes for the pain to stop, I thought, well, I can do that. And then what I started to hear was, because you get to hear what you need to know, was when I was on the chemo unit, people started telling me, when I sit next to you, Raymond, the pain stops. Don't know how you do that, but the pain stops. And that was enough. So it was enough to build on and, you know, to bring me where I am. The voices told me I'm going to be here for a good few years yet. So I look for that. I eat well, take good care of myself. But you know, the heart still gives me a little bit of a kickback. So that's sort of the most basic outlines of what Raymond O'Brien does and who he is, really.
Well, I hope to join you at that healing center this coming year. We're asked to be there, so that'll be interesting if we can do some work there and have people come.
I'd love that.
I don't think we've been together, but we haven't joined together in any adventure. You know, working together, that'd be kind of interesting. I want to thank you. Hang around, because when we end this thing, it's not over for the people that have been nice enough to attend in person here, because we're going to have questions and answers from them, and they can talk to you, and they can talk to me, and they can talk to Kana.
Oh, can't wait.
Right. Well, thank you. And Kana, I think you'd like to add a few words here at the end, and you know, you got about 8-10 minutes to to add any thoughts you have on the healing process or emotional process, or
Sure, let me
add to the good of the company here.
I actually had a question for Raymond. You said people, I think it's such a beautiful share. Thank you. I'm like, I don't think I have anything to add. But the pain, you said when people were with you, the pain went away. Is there a certain practice you do that allows that? I feel the love, but is there a specific thing that we can all, like, is there something that you can share that we can all use? Because we all have pain in our lives, right? So
yeah,
if there's anything you like to share that can.
I know it sounds so simple. I don't mean it to be so simplistic. I worked out a process where I had to believe that what I was doing was actually working. So I've throughout all of my life, I've ridden motorcycles, and I've ridden motorcycles in London, and I knew I was being told. So, and this is where the art of listening comes in. This is what I will write about in much more detail. But the basis of it is to practice how you know what you're doing is actually working. So I'll give you just an example. I was working on a big London hotel, jumped on my motorcycle to come home. Normally the golden rule for Raymond was never go first when I filter on the outside of traffic. And I was sticking to that rule. And but the guy who was in front of me on his bike, he got caught by the traffic, and I just seemed to flow around him. And I remember thinking, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that. And then within 30 seconds, bang, I was hit by a car, and then had an altercation with a bus. So to me, there had to be ways of finding out what I was doing was working, but not in such a way to damage the body. So I'll go back to, some of us have these skills where the phone goes, but you know who it is on the phone. And we often say, I knew it was you. So that was the first thing I started to hook into. So I started to, I'd worked on that. I thought, well, I'm being told something. That there's no doubt about that. I'm being told something. And it was the art of believing. So I used to practice those skills. So like I would have a glass of water. And if I was a lazy person, I think I'll just leave that there, but I won't take it out. But the glass has already gone. If you don't take that out, you're going to knock that over. And that's how I started to expand the skills of listening. Because I believe that my soul is not going to put me wrong. It's Raymond who's talking to you who's going to put Raymond wrong. So it's that belief on how do I do the healing. How I personally work it is that I use the theory of light pushing out of my body. It starts in the feet and it just starts pushing out. It's quite a difficult thing to do it with effort. But that works for me. That works for me. And that was how I started to understand, to communicate with my body about what I can do for the pain. I'm not as blessed as Bill, and I wish I was. I don't have the hand come out of the wall. I have to really drag it up from the heels. So I spent an awful lot of time ignoring my skills. So that's what I do. I'll sit down and I'll force the light out of whatever part is hurting my body. So whether it's shoulders, whether it's hands, whatever pains I get, I will get pain relief. I've never had a full cure yet. For myself, others who I've worked with have gone, and well, since you touched me, I don't get that issue anymore. But for me, for Raymond, I don't know why, but it keeps me on my toes. So that's where I'm at. It's that absolute faith of what I'm doing is working with the help of whatever other energies, Babaji, whatever you call Bill. It's that's what touches me. I'm open to it. And you know, I think we can practice. Some of the tablets they said for me to take, no, and I'm still here. It's the pushing. Never, ever, ever give up, Kana. Never give up, because you are helped. So I hope that's given. It's a difficult one to answer.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Just for the time we have.
And Raymond, is there like do you have a website, or how can people reach you?
You can reach. I'm very fortunate. I have a lovely lady in my life who deals with all of my admin stuff. RayOB1 at live.co.uk. That's where I have. I used to have a website, but I found nobody ever contacted me through the website. No, it lapsed. I never started again. All of the, believe it or not, I had a chap from New York contact me the other day, and he said he was watching one of Bill's videos with him and I, and he found it very moving, and he's contacted me for help with pain that he's got. So I found the website didn't work for me, but by others' energies, that's how it comes back. So even if you just tap in Raymond O'Brien Facebook, you'll see this face come up, and we'll always get back to you. We'll always get back to you.
Thank you. I was asking questions for, I'm sure everybody's like, how do I get a hold of Raymond? So, you know, I didn't want people to keep wondering.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. Thank you so much. I think on that note, I don't know if we all stay on, but I think you shared something about your soul. You said being authentic with your soul and having that gift come out of your soul. And that's the experience I personally have too. That's how it always comes out, is from my soul. I've had an experience when I was in south of France. doing the Mary Magdalene tour where her energy is so beautiful, just pure love. And I knelt down on my knees and I said, this is what I'm going to cry. This is what I came here to do, is to serve and love. I have no idea how, but to serve and love. And my soul literally walked me to this cave that wasn't even visible. My soul knew. And so this tour, that I had a private tour, and she was guiding me somewhere else, like, let me take you to this birthing cave. No, you know, to go here. And she was just so adamant. So I'm like, okay, I'll go to your birthing cave. And I just let her be there. And I said, I'll be right back. And I trusted my soul. I think like you said, our soul has all the knowledge, more than we could ever imagine. And so I just trusted my soul, and I followed my soul, literally, you know, from my heart. It was like, and I crossed over this big hump. And when I crossed over this big hump, there was this beautiful cave, just a magical cave of pure light. And I remember being there, it's going to get woo in my past life. And I said, I'm back, you guys, I'm back.
Oh,
There was just so much love, and I wouldn't have been able to be guided to that if it weren't for my soul and my heart. So thank you for that. I really believe that. And how about we spend the next 10 minutes really really activating that gift, our own gifts from our soul. So how about we close our eyes for a moment and really tune into our soul. Where is our soul? Tune into that love that Babaji is, his love, our I am presence, our, heart. I like to call it the heart of God. You call it the heart of Creator. For me, when I experience anxiety or pain, I just go to the heart of God. I literally tap into the heart of God. And then the heart of God, that light just beams and heals whatever ails me. And I feel like that's what Raymond's saying about the light of God, emanating that, healing the pain. So let's go into our soul and really feel what our soul is longing to become. It's okay to be our authentic self. Sometimes it's hard because we learn at such a young age from childhood, oh, I can't be me to belong to the family. I can't speak up. I can't be heard. I'll be, hit, shamed, whatever it is. Let that all go now. We're all adults here. Let all those programmings go and let our authentic self come out. And let our gifts come out from our soul. And let that love emanate, radiate any part that ails us now. Feel if there's any hatred, anger that Reverend Bill is saying, that's the biggest block to love. Well, but that too belongs, because there was some reason to be that. So instead of shaming it or denying it or resisting it, how about we welcome that part that got angry or hurt? Maybe it was violated. Just welcome it and welcome it back to love. See Babaji's hand just putting his love onto that part that might be angry or hurt. Or if there's pain, feel Babaji's hand putting love in that area, putting your soul's love, loving yourself. Wherever that pain is, bring that love in that area. And for me, the gift is sound healing. So I'll just use sound to just help recharge your battery. Really bring love to the area where you're aching emotionally, physically, whatever it is. Just bring love to that area. And know that you can be healed with your own love. That's the most powerful thing. You can heal with your own love, with that soul. call in Babaji, we invoke Babaji, we ask Babaji's hand, the love that Reverend Bill is talking about. We ask that love to just engulf anywhere where we need extra love, in our body, in our soul, wherever we need it. It's okay for our soul to shine. It's safe now. I am love. I am love. I am love. And really breathe in that love to the areas in your body that might need healing, that might need extra attention. Just send love to that area. You are lovable. You are love. You are okay. Right now. It's okay to bring your gifts out into this world. The world needs you. Let that love shine. So be it, and so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.